impact of lines in photography. And on to vertical lines. So vertical lines can be created by skyscrapers, trees, columns, poles, signposts, vertical fountains, facades, and whatnot. They can be used to create separation and framing within the image. They can be photographed in horizontal and vertical format as well. So you can try emphasizing the verticality of the lines by adjusting your stance, your perspective, and your lens choice. So play around with anything you have available to you. Vertical lines imply power, strength, growth, energy, upward movement, stiffness, and formality. Be sure, again, to keep vertical lines as much in line with the size of the image as possible. Keep the rule of thirds in mind. And I'm going to start with this one because I love it. And I chose it for vertical because of the pole in the center, or just a little off center. And then the verticality of the skyscraper, but then you also have the delineation between the two sides that's created by the skyscraper and the pole. And then it just looks like two images in one, but it kind of pulls you around, I find, with all the arrows and the lines.
And that top little arrow in the top right.
Arrow at the top right.
Becomes an arrow.
The way the flags are moving kind of pulls you back to the center. And yeah, I mean, it's just a simple shot as I was walking through Chicago, but
it's just constant movement. I mean,
it is people walking, the walking signs, the person walking, it looks like it's walking up the building because it fell over.
I love how you talked about that pole dividing the image in half. A lot of times we're told not to do that.
Exactly.
But here it's like
I'm going to do it.
It's like, that's one of those things, like when you find success or you have this rule, a lot of times it's like, how can you break a rule successfully?
Yeah.
And as street photographers, or everyday photographers, I'm always thinking about that. I'm just going to share a quick funny story of a former instructor at CSN. His name is Gary Reese. He's like us. He photographs every single day.
Yeah.
And I was talking in one of my classes about diptychs, and traditionally a diptych is two images side by side that have some sort of relationship or contrast.
Yep.
But he didn't fully hear what I was saying. So he decided to go out and do a whole series of diptychs that were like this, where something is dividing the image from side to side.
Oh, I love it.
And I loved it too. And like every time I think about diptychs, I think about Gary Reese's single image diptychs.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it's something to, that I play with in my head all the time when I'm out shooting as well. And that verticality, a favorite word of mine, verticality.
Yes.
Is coming through in a fantastic way. So fantastic.
Thanks. And then to kind of go next to it, this one is just recently my husband and I went out for a walk in the snow. I think this was in December, and came across, this is just a window on a bank, but I kind of was like, oh, I like how it separates the two. It creates like two images in one. Again, I mean, just with my cell phone, and it's freezing outside. You can see I'm holding on to my glove, but like just play with whatever you got and
I love that repetition of the lights coming out of the window divider,
Yeah, post. And then you got the tree on one side, which kind of, and then the point of the building over to the right. And
it's a fantastic.
Yeah, simple. And then this is just sort of, a sign sticking up in the middle of the sky, or you can have a bunch of palm trees lined up, kind of jetting up into the sky as well. So it's pulling you upwards. And where is it pulling you upwards to? It could be whatever is on top of the pole and the sign, or just the palm trees itself. And I love how they kind of pull them. They're actually growing at perfect diagonal. I found that scene so surreal, but that was actually out when I was in Vegas doing photos for the Uncommon Vegas.
Oh, a great project that you worked on. One thing about that sign popping up, I just want to point out for the students, is take a look at the lighting. So the light is striking the one side, yet the other side is in shadow.
Yes.
That adds to the dimensionality and depth that's being created in something that's fairly simple.
Yes.
It keeps our attention. So you always want to be looking at the light as well as all of these compositional rules. We're going to do more on that this semester.
Oh, good.
But as we start to look at it here, take note of some of that.
And play with it, because the light can also bring out textures and kind of accentuate the lines.
Yeah. Cool.
Here, these ones are just sort of a collection of sorts. This is in Vegas, looking through a fence into a building and more fencing. And then this is in LA. I decided, play with your stance, play with how you're holding the camera. And this is just me standing and looking up at the sculpture outside of LACMA. This was with your fabulous document class, and there's a really cool barbershop downtown Vegas. And I just found it was neat because the lines at the bottom pull you to the scene in the barbershop itself. And then the way the curtains are kind of pulling you downwards as well. So it all just kind of plays together. And then this is a fountain in France, in Nice. And I love the reflections and the verticality of the fountains as well. Yeah. And then this one, I guess it's a mixture of lines of sorts, but I just found that, the vertical lines, converging lines as well, pulling you up to the negative space. And I just played with the contrast on this as well. And that's at the Circus Circus.
The shadows in this one are dramatic.
Yeah, it was such a bright day, as usual in Vegas. And but I found the architecture at that casino was quite unique. Obviously, it's more mid-century modern, so you could find a lot of these really cool spaces just in the back. And this was actually at Bonnie Springs. So looking out from kind of the saloon area, and it had those plastic slats. So I thought, I'll just play with it, because you got the vertical lines of the plastic slats, and then the actual kind of what would you call it, a porch, looking out to the horizontal lines of the picnic tables. And then these are just a few kind of.
We go back for one second.
Yeah.
That also is another rule as well of a portal. So looking through a frame of sorts here. So that's something that photographers use frequently too, to focus your attention.
Yeah, play with a frame within a frame.
Yeah.
And then play with the lines that you see. And I mean, you could even, if you tilt the camera a certain way, you could create diagonal lines, but you choose with whatever you see in front of you.
So, okay, awesome.
And then just some more vertical lines, just found kind of nature, and also in an architectural archaeological site, and the cactus in Phoenix at the botanical garden there. And then the far right, that was just out for a walk here in Ontario, and the beautiful colors of the trees, but just the grove of trees, jutting upwards and creating that vertical line. And then the lines of the sunbeam as well. So that kind of plays together. And then this is just sort of everyday things. So then the one on the left, again, is with my Hipstamatic. But I found that the vertical lines coming from the top, pulling you down towards this is just an art piece at an art gallery. And then on the right, just a simple window and kind of something happening in the window. And there's a bunch of vertical lines with the curtains and the frame of the window itself. And then here we are, just using more kind of architectural features, columns, playing with vertical lines of this window that's jutting out of the tower in Chicago, and then the subway stations in New York.
That middle shot is just so magical to me.
Scary.
It feels so wrong, but it's like it feels classic and iconic. And just the reflection of the people then back on the side of the building.
Yeah.
And you're just like
city lines
off of the side here.
I know.
I'm just mesmerized every time I see this one.
Yeah, and we had to wait probably 45 minutes just to get into the space to go take photos, and then people are pushing you out. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. But again, this was with my cell phone, because to try and use my big camera, it was just too cumbersome. I'm like, I'm just going to get something.
And you went there, were you thinking, I'm going to make an image? And then
yes.
This happened, this image just came to...
That one just came. And there's a few different ones I tried. And so short on time, and thought, okay, just got to use what I got and play with it. So I'm happy with how it turned out.
You mentioned you tried a few different things. So I'm guessing just horizontal, vertical, framing it in different ways. So you made, how many images do you think you made to get your one success here?
Oh, probably I fit in like 20, 25.
Great.
And in such a short period of time. Some of them were because it was getting dark. So we were a little blurry and didn't have the focuses, as good as I wanted it to be. And so just keep playing, just keep doing. And then, there is always going to be throwaways. That's common. And just as long as you've got one.
Yep.
And then the two on the sides, those are actually with the Hipstamatic as well. That was with the contrasty square images I was using while I was in New York. And I did a bunch of street photos using that as well. So it was fun kind of in the subways, just playing with whatever was in front. I know there's also curved and arches and horizontal and vertical. It's a mixture of everything, but I found that the vertical kind of kept pulling you up.
Yes.
Yeah. And then some more vertical, totally different, but one on the left is in Amsterdam. It's a vertical fountain again, and kids and families were playing in the center.
Did you know those people?
Nope. I was there on my own, just the reason traveling by myself.
Yeah, I asked that because so many people think they're afraid to photograph people.
Oh,
that they don't know. So it's nothing to be afraid of.
No. I mean, use it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people love to have their picture taken, and you pretty much know if they don't want their picture taken. You get a sense. So what do you do when that happens?
Well, then you just carry on, or you apologize, and
you walk away.
Walk away. There's
nothing
you can do about it. But,
exactly. But I can tell you, the encounters that you have are so few, like one a year, one every 2 years, where someone really doesn't like to have their picture taken.
Yeah, so rare. Because especially nowadays, everyone's got cameras.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a cell phone.
You could be
everyone's taking photos. You're probably on images that you don't even know about.
Yeah. All the Ring cameras in your neighborhoods and surveillance cameras throughout the city.
We're always being photographed.
Yeah. And people are making art from those images.
Yeah.
They're public sourcing them from the internet and curating different concepts, basically. Yeah. So that's something interesting on a side note as well, where they're not even taking the images, they just become the curator.
They find them and they curate them. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. And you could see the joy in the kid. Yeah. Everyone else has their back turned, but she's like, wee. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, one thing I know about the two of us is you're like, wee, kid, fun. And I'm like, I'm not going to photograph that.
I know.
So we all have different personalities in what we photograph. And part of that is your joy when you're in that situation, you're part of it. So you're not threatening. Whereas some people have a different attitude. And then that's when the problems happen at times, because they show their fear or their aggressiveness when they're making the images.
Yeah, or they're just...
Yeah. So you just got to engage and be part of it. And that's how you find success in photographing people you don't know.
Yeah. And if anyone asks you, like, oh, you just look so happy. I had to commemorate it.
Yeah. And my line is, I'm a student at CSN and I'm out on
that works.
To photograph people.
Yeah.
Strangers. As soon as you say you're a student, most of the time it's like, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And, one other thing with people is that a lot of times they'll say, hey, can you send me the photograph or can you email it to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get their number and do it. It doesn't hurt. Don't say, oh, it's $10. Just give them the image.
No, just give it. I mean,
and then if you say you're going to do it, follow through and do it.
Yeah.
Because it looks good for everyone if you do. If you don't, they're gonna be like, oh, there's that one photographer that one time and I never want my picture taken again.
Yeah, exactly.
So always just follow through. And heck, I give away so many pictures when we're out and about. People are just curious too, like, what are you photographing?
Yeah.
You take my picture. Anytime anyone asks me to take their picture, I take their picture. It's digital. It doesn't cost us a penny.
It's so fun.
They have a good time and we have a good time. So
yeah. That's the one thing that's really cool about Vegas is there's no shortage of interesting people to photograph. I love the document class.
I know, me too.
Obviously, I took it a couple of times, but it was just such a great way to get out and about, instead of just staying in. And I found too many people did that there because then they really never got to understand the city. And
yeah, it's such a fabulous city.
It really is. And I think it's so important to get out.
Yeah.
And interact.
Yes.
Yeah. And then on the opposite, there's a good old Frank Lloyd Wright in Chicago, the Roby House, and his use of vertical lines as many other lines as well.